Check, check. All right, guys. So moving on to video number 2. And I'm sure because I just clicked here, you can see what I'm getting at. But let me just throw this out there. I spent years around audio mentors, which was great, and years at places like Guitar Center and on audio forums. And I developed an understanding that unless I had a big room that was soundproofed, or at least, sound dampened, not fully, but, just problem spots taken care of, as well as great speakers, if I didn't have that, there's no way that I could become a good producer, good engineer, good mix engineer, and good mastering engineer. And at least for electronic dance music, since that's mostly what I do, it's not true. And there might be some people that scoff at that and are upset by that, but the fact of the matter is that technology has changed the way that we do this, even in the past 5 to 10 years, definitely 10 years. And we're not using, for the most part, acoustical instruments that really are catching the ambience of the room and kind of the problems that happen with recorded instruments. So that's a really long way of me telling you the guilt that I had for only being able to afford Yamaha HS80s was completely a waste of time. I love my Yamaha HS80s. I'll probably never get rid of them. But marketing really dug its hooks into me and took me for a ride. Now, here's the thing. I'm a bit of a cynical person. I read into things, and it didn't take me for as bad of a ride as I saw most other people getting used and taken on. So while I gave in a little, I always look at both sides of things and keep kind of a, I don't know how to say it other than a skeptical ear to the ground to make sure that what I'm being told really is the word on the street, if you will. So with that being said, I would really argue to say you really don't need soundproofing. You really don't need speakers, whether it be lower grade models and therefore smaller speakers, like 5-inch speakers. I was always one to try to save up more and get 8-inch cones just so I could get at least most of the full spectrum, which in some ways did help me. And even now, in my closet, I have the Focal Alpha 8s just sitting there, not even being used. I don't need them. Great speakers, expensive speakers, I just don't need them. So, before you freak out and go and rearrange a room and decorate it with soundproofing, all you really need is the tower I explained, so roughly about $1,000 machine, your DAW of choice, the cheapest being FL Studio. Arguably the most user-friendly is Ableton. So right there you can decide, do you want to go for a well-priced DAW with lifetime updates? Might be more of a learning curve, or a much more expensive DAW, but super user-friendly that you can get going on probably, producing tracks within 3 or 4 days. And especially if you stick with this training in my music academy, definitely within a week, and then longer projections within a month for sure. Absolutely no question. Completed tracks, mixed and mastered. But, so $1,000 for the machine, roughly speaking, let's just say $500 for a DAW. Averaged out there. You might pay a little bit more, you might pay a little bit less. It just kind of depends on which one you go with and the model, if you will, of what you need. Whether you go for, the ultimate Ableton, which I think is Ableton Suite, versus whatever the mid-grade one is, whatever that is, Ableton Pro or whatever. truth be told, I could probably survive with Ableton's mid-grade one. You don't necessarily need the suite, in my opinion. But the other thing to think about, which is really pretty modestly priced, is the headphones that I use, which is the Audio-Technica ATH M50Xs. They're $150. Now, I have the much older model that does not have this, what you're seeing right here, the ability for your cable to be unplugged from your headphones, which is pretty smart because if you use them for DJing and producing like I do, if your cable goes bad, all you have to do is unplug it, throw it away, and you buy a new one. Whereas with my model, I probably bought one of the earlier models before the engineers over at Audio-Technica thought of this. My wire is hardwired into those headphones. So if it goes bad, I assume I'm either going to have to just replace the whole darn thing, which for $150, I probably would just do that. Or think about, I don't know, cutting the wire and splicing in a new wire, or opening up the ear cup that the headphones are wired into and getting it right at the source there, unsoldering it, getting a new cable, and resoldering it. I would probably try that just for the experience because soldering to me really isn't that big of a deal. I'm awful at it, and I can say that. So just understand that if you ever do need to solder something, you're not getting advice from somebody that's a master solderer here. I'm awful at it, and even I still do it, and I've fixed all sorts of things. I bought a gaming mouse, which is super comfortable and much nicer to produce with. And one of the left click button on it, I think, went bad. And even I opened it up, got the little piece from China, resoldered it in, did a terrible job with it, closed it up, really didn't expect it to work. I thought maybe I had burned it out. And guess what? It worked. And not only did it work, but that piece has now been in there for about 3 years, and it's absolutely fine. So, but you won't have to do that with these guys. $150, you'll have more or less the same model, an updated version of the model that I have. You don't need expensive speakers that are $300 plus a piece. So, you have to buy two, so you're looking at basically about $700 in speakers. You don't need to do all that. Get yourself a tower, and I stress a tower because a tower can be opened up and upgraded, and a set of headphones. Go ahead and get yourself a DAW, whether it be Ableton, FL Studio, or any other one out there that you prefer, and get going on music. But what I would not do is what I did, which is get soundproofing and think that you have to have your studio decked out with all kinds of different speakers to reference on. Well, I will show you a much more up-to-date and much better way, in my opinion, to reference things to get you professional results, even on $150 headphones. I mean, the results are undeniable, and it's just a much more updated 2020 version of what people used to have to do, which was buy multiple sets of speakers and listen to their song on those different sets of speakers, and then notice the differences between those sets of speakers in their song, average out what they need to change, and then hope that, they generally have a mix of a song that translates across all spectrums, meaning in your car, in your studio, on TV speakers, through headphones, through laptops. That's super old and outdated and very expensive because you have to buy different sets of speakers to do that on. It's just not necessary. So we'll cap it right here. Get yourself a set of headphones. If you wanted to, you could probably even get away with the M40s, which are $50 cheaper. If you want to be kind of a snob about it, you could go for something a little bit higher like the M70s, which are $300, but I do just fine with the M50s at $150, and I get great results. And when my tracks are played next to pro ones, there's more or less no difference. I'm sure there's a difference in how they produce versus me and how they mix and master, because everybody's going to do it differently, just like cooking or painting or decorating or whatever. But the end result, if you can't taste the real difference or hear the real difference, if you will, you're there. So I would go for the $150 M50s, and I'll show you how to utilize the hell out of these and really get great results without breaking your bank account. So join me in the next video. We're going to touch on something that's something pretty important to consider. See you guys in the next.